It's time for Windows Weekly, episode 166. Paul Thurrott rubbing his eyes. He's been working hard on his Windows Phone book, and good news, he can finally reveal all the details about the new Windows Phone. That's coming up next on Windows Weekly.
Netcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is TWiT.
Bandwidth for Windows Weekly is provided by Cachefly at cachefly.com. This is Windows Weekly with Paul Thurrott, episode 166, recorded July 22nd, 2010. Revenge of the White Icons. Windows Weekly is brought to you by GoToMeeting. Face-to-face meetings are sometimes important, but they can be a hassle and a waste of money. Do more, travel less with GoToMeeting. For your free 30-day trial, visit gotomeeting.com/Windows Weekly. And by Carbonite. Backing up the files on your PC or Mac is safe and easy with Carbonite. For a free trial plus 2 free months with purchase, go to carbonite.com. Offer code Windows. And by audible.com. To download a free audiobook of your choice, go to audible.com/Windows. It's time for Windows Weekly, the show that covers everything that's happened in Redmond, Washington, even if Microsoft didn't do it.
Traffic issues.
Yeah, right.
Construction.
It's the local show for Redmondians.
Right. And that I'm 3,000 miles away should not in any way impact your enjoyment.
The good news, there's somebody in Portland doing a show about Dedham, so it all works out. It's a symmetry. That's Paul Thurrott, the voice on the other end. Paul is the news editor for Windows IT Pro, the man in charge of the SuperSite for Windows, winsupersite.com, and the author of Windows Phone Secrets. Our man about town. Hello, Paulie.
Hello, sir.
How are you?
I'm good.
Good. Good.
I am operating on very little sleep.
Now, I read an article, and I was wondering if this person broke his NDA or if, in fact, news is coming out about these developer phones that y'all received. He was talking about it as, I think, a Samsung, yes?
Yep.
So now you can say some stuff because some stuff is public. Or was
Leo,
the NDA...
I can say all stuff.
Oh, so it's lifted now. We can talk.
Yeah.
I'm
I
excited.
can't say some stuff. You might want to just sit back and relax. This is going to take a while.
Good, because I see that We Rule has added a level cap and a coach in and some Red Dragon there. So I'm going to start to work on my farm, and I'll check back with you.
Hey, I need you to pay attention.
I'm sorry. I'm listening, Paul.
Jeez. No,
what?
I mean, I've been waiting. I've been waiting to talk about this for a long time.
I know you've had this for a couple of weeks. So the deal was that you would be able to talk come July 21st or something?
I misunderstood because Microsoft gave me the phone. They said, we'll get in touch with you and we're going to release it to developers. We're going to have an announcement or something. You can write about it when it happens, And I didn't really think much about it. And then I think it was actually after the last podcast, I wrote them back and I said, I just want to be clear on this. I mean, when you say I can write about it, what do you mean by that? I mean, can I write about, that you've released these things to developers or what? And they said, no, you can write about anything you want. You can write anything with the phone, this OS, anything.
Oh, fantastic. Now, it is beta, right?
Well, what's that?
It is a beta release. It's not the final release.
No. This is very near final.
Oh, good. This is exciting. Everybody, we're going to hear about the new Windows Phone. Scoop.
Well, I mean, from my perspective, normally, I mean, all things being equal, I like to share,
Oh, I know.
And
it's
I like
horrible.
to talk about stuff. And
I hate
don't
NDAs.
However, I'm also racing to finish this book before the end of the month to meet my deadline. And, I've been working extremely long hours, and I don't really have a lot of free time. So suddenly on last Friday, I had to sort of cope with the fact that in addition to all this writing I needed to do for the book, I have to write something hopefully coherent about Windows Phone for Monday morning, as well. So I split it up over the weekend and tried to, post some kind of a preview. But clearly, it's going to take a long time to discuss everything that's going on with this phone. So I think what I'll do is over time I'll write more about specific features and so forth. But right now I have a phone, and it's
So what can we say? This is exciting. Can you show
everything.
it?
Yeah, of course. I don't know how well
it looks a little bit
look.
like a Nexus 1.
So I will say this. So the hardware device, it's funny, when they handed me the device, there was a lot of apologies right up front. And they said, look, this thing is not ship-level hardware. None of the devices we ship will look like this. They're going to be much nicer looking, thinner, et cetera, et cetera. The device itself is not actually ugly or bad looking in any way. It's fine. I mean, it's fine. It's not something they're going to sell.
Right.
The thing that's most striking about it, in many ways, when you first look at it, is the screen quality is just absolutely unbelievable. And interestingly, also something they apologized about, because this is the lower quality version of the screen.
Wow.
And it's actually the same screen that you can see. Well, it's bigger than the Zoom HD, but it's the same type of screen, like an OLED.
The Samsung makes these AMOLED screens. They're putting them on the Galaxy S's. That's what it looks like a Galaxy S. Yeah.
It's super, super high contrast, very
Beautiful.
bright,
Yep.
beautiful. So it's got a very rich kind of color quality. As far as in use, I would say, and I noticed this a couple of months ago. I mean, I've been using a couple of different prototype phones back at the Microsoft campus back in May. The one thing that's odd, if you're used to the iPhone, depending on the phone, and this has gotten better and better over time, but when companies first started trying to copy the iPhone, the success of the touch interface was never as good as it was, I'd say, on the iPhone. The virtual keyboards were never as good. Just the way that you interact with the phone, it just didn't seem as good. And I think new Android phones are already doing this as well. But the Windows Phone, I can say, the touchscreen is absolutely fantastic. It's very responsive and fast, and the virtual keyboard is beautiful and it works great and all that kind of stuff. So there's no worries there. But I mean, I guess that, there's so much to say around the phone. I'm going to try not to babble through it, because there's a lot of stuff I want to get out. But I think the most important point, and it's a real generalization, but I think it's something that needs to be said, is if you were to go back 3 years and look at what I wrote about the iPhone, the original iPhone, back when it came out, and you have to remember what a splash that phone made when it was first released, because it was so much better than anything that was in the market at the time, dramatically better. And the more time you spent with it, though, as a reviewer, as someone like me, as a very critical person, you start to pick apart little things in it, like it doesn't have this, it doesn't have this, it doesn't have this. And over time, you create this humongous list. And of course, what Apple was more concerned with at the time wasn't it does or doesn't have this very specific little picayune feature, but they were more concerned with, hitting the high points. Remember the way they marketed it off the top of my head? It was like, 3 devices in one, right? It was like a connected internet device. Right. It was a mobile browser. It was an iPod, whatever it was, a communicator. They had this way of describing it. And those were obviously the high-level points they were trying to make about this device, that it was like this all-in-one new kind of way of looking at a smartphone. Right. It also had, pervasive multi-touch, right, which at the time was a big deal. And it had a web browser that actually worked. Mobile web browsers to that point were universally very lousy. When I wrote about the iPhone at the time, what I wrote was, this thing it's beautiful and it's awesome. It's the best smartphone on the planet, but it's also deeply flawed, right? Because it does not have this. I went through this huge litany of things it didn't have. Now, over the next 3 years, of course, Apple fixed all of those problems. And today, I mean, obviously the iPhone 4 has its issues, but I mean, the iPhone platform is very mature. The software is excellent, and they've done a really good job, I think, over time of updating it. And of course, we have Androids, and even, RIM is getting into this kind of touchscreen game and so forth. And there's a lot of companies competing for this. So now we have Microsoft, And I guess what I would say is, people have made this comparison where they said, this thing is just like the iPhone from 3 years ago. Thus, Microsoft is somehow really far behind, and they should just give up. This is ridiculous. And the funny thing about that comment is, it's actually right to say that, but not for the reason that they think. And the reason that people have said this is just like the iPhone from 3 years ago is because it's missing some of the same exact features that the iPhone was missing 3 years ago.
Cut and paste, for instance.
Cut and paste, and actual, like, true multitasking. Although, actually, Windows Phone does have multitasking, but whatever. That's incorrect. That's not the reason it's like the iPhone. The reason that Windows Phone is like the original iPhone was 3 years ago is that in the market into which it's shipping, it is, in fact, in some ways dramatically better than anything else that's out there in the market right now. It actually is very innovative and does some things in ways that are very unique and interesting and visually exciting. I talked, or I sort of alluded to last week, some of these experiences where you see stuff appear on the phone and you just start smiling. You can't believe like this thing got on there automatically. It's really kind of neat the way it works.
Right.
On the other hand, if you're a critical person, if you're a technical person, a power user, whatever, it's going to be, like we've said this before, it's going to be very easy to tick off a list. Like, well, yeah, but it doesn't have this, doesn't have this, you know, it doesn't have this. I mean, the more you dig into it, the more it doesn't have in a way. And that almost sounds like a negative. But the thing I would just remind people of, and I'm trying to be very balanced in the way that I cover this, both on my own site, but also on the blog where I'm writing about writing the book and so forth, is that Microsoft is doing this on purpose. Not that that makes it okay, but I want people to understand that it's by design, that they want to hit some high points. They intend to fill in these features over time and have announced that they will, in fact, be doing that.
Why is it, though? Is it a difficult thing to do, cut and paste or something?
Yeah.
I mean,
no, I wouldn't see, again, I wouldn't focus on that specific feature, but the way I would say it is...
Well, you know people will.
Right, but this is how I would communicate this.
Okay.
Is there were two choices you could make. You're starting over from scratch. We're going to accept that that's happening. And the reason we accept that that's happening is Microsoft did the alternative last year. They took this platform that had been around for 15 years, and they put lipstick on top of it. And they made this high-level interface, which actually is, by the way, nice. It is nice. The Windows Mobile 6.5 interface, that front thing that you see, the home, the start screen, the lock screen, even the programs list, right to about that point, is really nice. And if it's running on a capacitive type screen, it performs very well. The problem with doing that, though, is that parts of Windows Mobile literally are 15 years old. And it doesn't take too long as you dive into this interface to find those old UIs. They're in there. They were designed for styluses, little tiny tips that you would tap on the screen. You can't hit them with your finger. They don't work, you know. So this approach didn't work. In fact, it was universally panned, you know. So that's one alternative. So you're not going to do that. It didn't work. So you're going to start over. There are only two ways to start over. You can start over and do everything right, but that takes 2 years. In this case, we'll say about 2 years. And the market's going to change in 2 years, right? So it's going to make it very hard for you to adapt and respond to ongoing market changes. Or you can look at the schedule and say, what can we do in 1 year? Let's hit the high points. Let's put stuff out that real people will really want, right? Not do it the Microsoft way. Remember, I've made fun of this a lot. Microsoft approaches problems with a sledgehammer. Let's make a platform. Let's create APIs. Let's have roundtables with developers. Let's do, you know, and all this time goes by, and then at the end they make an incredible, complete end-to-end platform. But Apple has run away with another market. You know, I mean, Apple doesn't do things this way. So in this case, what they said was, look, we got to get this thing out fast. What can we do in X amount of time? Let's hit some high points. Let's do things, like I said, that people are really going to respond to in positive ways, and we'll fill in the gaps so that after 2 years, we can also respond to market trends, but also fill in the gaps, you know, that kind of thing. I think on that note, it was kind of the right decision, you know. And I've had this discussion on my blog back and forth with people like, well, why doesn't it have this? Don't you think they should have done this first? Don't you think they should have done this first? And honestly, looking at it, no. I think that what they did do first actually does make sense. I think that, you know, one guy said, we had a conversation around, you know, they've added Facebook integration, but they don't have copy and paste. Would you really have made that decision? Now, I don't think that that was the decision.
It's probably not an equal trade-off, though. I mean, come on.
But in the real world,
maybe.
What's more important to people on a phone? Right. The ability to keep up with their friends, or their ability to copy and paste between applications?
That's a good point.
No, I mean, if you really think about it, there are 500 million people on Facebook now. Maybe Facebook is more important. It may not be the technical decision that you or I, as kind of technical people or power users or whatever, may want to hear. But I think when you really think about it, it makes a lot of sense. So anyway, as to the high-level stuff, the big picture stuff, the places where Windows Phone just, I mean, kicks the crap out of whatever else is out there, it's this media stuff, right? Mostly. The Pictures Hub, the Music and Videos Hub, even the People's Hub, People Hub, and the integration possibilities that are in there. You know, not just the stuff that Microsoft ships on the device itself, but the possibilities for third parties to extend those things in different ways. The simplest example in the world, and the one that I'll give just because it's so obvious and so basic, is if you have an iPhone and you want to look at pictures, you have to think of all the different places where pictures could be, right?
Yes, that's true.
You can have pictures in a phone. It has a pictures app, right? Yeah. You have a camera that takes pictures, right? Yeah. So there's a photo, whatever they call it, or photo.
Access to the photo album from the camera is there,
right? Yeah. But what about your pictures on MobileMe? Even in a case where Apple has an online service where you can store pictures, you can't actually access MobileMe pictures from the iPhone Pictures app. You have to use a separate application. It's a MobileMe gallery application, right? If you have pictures on Flickr, there's a Flickr app. If you have pictures on Picasa Web, Google's web service, Google doesn't have one, but third parties do have Picasa web apps. If you want to look at pictures on Facebook, because people often post pictures on Facebook, well, there's a Facebook app. In, out, in, out, in, out. All day long, you can go in and out of different apps. They're not in the same place. On Windows Phone, except for MobileMe, everything I just described could be in this pictures. Well, I mean, MobileMe could be too, but I just don't expect Apple to do that. Could be made available from the phone from a single interface.
Right.
And that's really exciting. And that's what I mean when you just kind of smile. Like if you're not ready for it, you can't believe it's there.
Right.
So, for example, when I look at my own phone, there's a gallery. And there are different ways to look at this, but the simplest way is just like all pictures, right? So there are these galleries, there are thumbnails. So camera roll is there. And then there's folders for the pictures that I sync to the phone. I have a folder that I call favorites, so just favorite photographs, There are pictures that I have saved from the web in their own folder, right? And then you scroll down a little bit, and there's like, oh, look, there's some folders from Windows Live. That's interesting. There's some more folders from Windows Live. There are folders from Facebook, like that's interesting. And this stuff is all there together in one interface. And that's what I mean, the pictures that are in this particular list from Facebook are pictures that I put up. So I'm not going to spend too much time looking at my own pictures, I suppose. But if you scroll over in this interface, you also get to go look at what other people are posting right now. Flickr, Facebook, Windows Live, whatever. All in one interface. You can comment on them right there. You can see when people have commented on your pictures, no matter where you posted them, and then reply right from this one interface. No matter where that reply goes to, it goes automatically to the right place. It's really kind of exciting and integrated and fun, and it's what I mean when I say. I'm looking at it now. I just saw something I'd never seen before already. So it's amazing. You can look at pictures by date, and if you click the date clicker, you get this grid of dates that, in my case, I don't even know how far it goes back. It goes back to 2002.
So it sounds like they focused on social integration over a lot of other things. That was a high priority for them.
Okay, yeah, and I wouldn't actually leave it at social integration, although. Yes, social integration maybe, let's say, is job one. But it's not just social integration. It's integration of many things, integration where it makes sense. It's inconsistent, oddly. So one of the things I was just writing about today is you can have in fact, let me go look at it just so I make sure I get this right. You can have all kinds of accounts set up on this thing. And those accounts are going to be different depending on what they are. And you can have different instances of account types. So if I have 3 Windows Live accounts, I could have 3 Windows Live accounts, set up on the phone, right? So you have this primary Windows Live account, your primary Windows Live ID, and this is where you get the feeds from, right? It's where you get your, well, actually, that's the only thing that's unique about it. It's the feeds. It's the thing that it determines which account you use to access your Zune content or your Xbox Live achievements, right? All that stuff. All the stuff that's wrapped around your Windows Live ID. You have to have one main account, and that's where that stuff all comes from. But any Windows Live account can have email, contacts, calendar, and photos. Okay?
Okay.
You can have a Facebook account, contacts, photos, and feeds, right? You can have a Gmail, Google account, email, calendar, and contacts. Yahoo is email only. You can have Exchange type accounts, email, contacts, calendar. And then you can, there are advanced setups. You can do any type of email account, no matter what it is, you can get it connected. You can have an interesting assortment of these accounts. You could have one Gmail account that is just email, one Gmail account that's email, contacts, and calendar, one Gmail account that's just contacts and calendar. And they all mix together on the phone in different ways. So the inconsistency of it, I would say, falls in 2 parts. One is that the account types are inconsistent between each other because some accounts just have different capabilities, right? Facebook doesn't have a calendar. I mean, that's just the way it is. The other inconsistency, though, is in the way that these things are integrated on the phone. So, for example, in Calendar, all of the calendar accounts, no matter where they come from, can be shown in the same interface. And you can turn them on and off. I'm looking at mine now, and I can see 3 different color codes based on where the calendar, information comes from. But it's all aggregated together into a single view. Nice. In the People Hub, and some people may not actually want this, all of your contacts, no matter where they're from, are all displayed in the same exact list. And there's no actual way, and this is one of those inconsistencies, to filter it out without just turning off contacts from that account. You may or may not want that. I could picture a situation where somebody wanted their Exchange contacts separate from everyone else,
Yeah, for business reasons or whatever, yeah.
Yeah, but there are interesting ways to do things like link accounts. And the linking occurs on the phone. It doesn't affect any of the actual accounts. One of the really interesting bits about this is, let's say you have a person who's only in a Facebook, is only on Facebook. That you don't have a contact card for them in some other account, but you want to change something. So they don't actually let you change Facebook accounts from the phone. But what they'll do is automatically create a duplicate account in Windows Live. It will make the changes there, and then it will apply the changes to the aggregated view of that, single contact card. It's pretty nicely thought through. I mean, it's a nice system. Now, on the flip side, if you configure multiple email accounts, like I've configured 1, 2, 3, 4 of them on this phone, they all appear separately. There isn't a unified inbox. It's inconsistent, right? Now, some people may not want a unified inbox, but I think there should at least be the option, But again, it's a V1 thing. I think, again, it wasn't, can we do a unified inbox or a unified calendar? I don't know how the decision was made. I mean, I'm sure different teams were responsible for both those things. They were both written from scratch. So none of this stuff was taken from anywhere else, except for possibly Internet Explorer. So who knows? For whatever reason, in V1 we have integrated calendar. We don't have integrated inbox. Maybe that comes in V2 or in some later update. But I'm really kind of blown away by this. And I think speaking generally, the thing that's most interesting is how exciting this thing is without having a single third-party app to run on it. There's nothing. I mean, the handful of apps that I actually do use fairly regularly on the iPhone just aren't on this thing. And I just find myself not caring.
Right.
I mean, a lot of what I do on the iPhone is, in fact, like the Facebook app, right? Because I tend to post to Facebook when I'm out in the world doing something. If I'm home all day doing nothing, I don't, I'm doing nothing today. I'm Facebook. Hi, Facebook. I tend to go to Facebook when I have something to say.
Right.
Because I'm traveling or whatever. So I don't miss that, but then I don't need to miss it because that's integrated. I don't actually need a Facebook app, as it turns out. Facebook is just part of the phone.
People want to know in the chat room if multiple Exchange accounts are allowed. I'm sure that's the case. Yes. And multiple active syncs. That's an interesting.
Multiple of anything. Yep.
Multiple of anything.
I think that's 3 Google accounts on here right now. I've got 2 Exchange accounts. I've got
that's
Yahoo.
Recognizing that this is going to be used by business, I guess, and people will have business accounts as well as private accounts, and they'll want to use both on the phone. That seems to me
right. And actually, that's an interesting point. So I don't know that I'm going to just show you this, and who knows? I don't know if it's going to how this will look, but in the it's not. It's going to get washed out because it's so white. So
get it a little closer because the camera. Yeah, see, the camera will iris to it.
So you can see how plain looking that UI is.
Yeah,
it's
the
black
Zune
text and white.
Zune UI kind of big
well,
text.
The reason I show that though is some people have pointed out there's this weird difference between some of the really rich experiences like pictures and music and video that are just rich panoramic experiences with scrolling and all this stuff. And then you go into Calendar or the email application I just showed you, and it's like, whoa, that's really kind of stark looking, Right. I actually think that that's by design, and I actually think it makes a lot of sense. I would say that the UI of the phone itself, regardless of what you're talking about, is really designed to get out of the way and let the content kind of go to the front. When you're doing something like looking at photos, especially, there's the sort of suddenly canonical example here, it makes sense that this would be a rich visual experience. They're photos. You can change the background panorama wallpaper to be any picture you want, which is a really cool capability. Like this is just one of the This is just one of the Windows 7 wallpapers I just threw back there because it's a neat little, if I get this. I can't do it backwards, sorry. Panoramas. So it makes it very personal, it's visual and all that kind of stuff. In that case, the picture is the content. It's what you want to look at. The UI, such as it is actually just a text list. You just don't see it because you're looking at the pictures.
Right.
When you go into email and you're dealing with text, or you go into calendar, you're looking at your appointments or whatever, there are no pictures. There's no gunk. There's no UI Chrome. I really think that that's by design. And like I said, I think it makes a lot of sense because you're getting a job done. You want to go in, look at your email, answer some if you have to, triage it, whatever, and you get out, you're done. It is by design, but that doesn't excuse it. I think it's fine. I think it's the appropriate UI. Right. You know, you can look at overly busy UIs, and again, I don't mean to throw Apple over the coals here per se. It's just that I have a lot of experience with the Apple stuff. If you look at something, well,
it's also the phone to beat. I mean, that's what everybody's.
Yeah, and actually, I'm not even using a phone UI in this case. If you look at something like the contacts app, the address book application on the iPad, it looks a little too much like a real address book, or the book thing where you flip in the thing.
Yeah,
Apple is almost too concerned with the UI.
Yeah,
whereas I think, and I said that before I even knew what this was. In many ways, I always thought one of the big advantages of say the Kindle for ebook reading is that there's no UI around it. The device itself is kind of ugly. You're concerned about the book. You read the book, you get lost in the book. You don't care about the UI. I mean. Apple, for whatever it's worth, in many of these applications, it seems like they're a little too concerned about the UI. Look, you can make the page flip. Look at that. And they go back and forth slow. Look at it.
This is actually what a number of people said about the Windows Phone UI. In fact, I think this is what Microsoft is saying: pure digital, right? Digital from the ground up. We're not going to try to emulate real world experience with page turns and desktop metaphors. We're going to make something that's
this is the argument I've been making. Right, from day one. Just because we do something in the real world doesn't mean that metaphor makes sense in the digital world.
Right.
In fact, I think you should look at whatever the form factor of the device is, or if you're talking about a PC, the screen size, whatever. Take advantage of the inherent capabilities of the thing, Emulating real-world objects is lazy. And
I'm not sure I might say that. I'm argue in favor of it, at least in the early days. When GUIs were new, it made sense to make it look like something you already knew because it made it easier to understand. Folders and desktops made it easier to understand. It may be that it's dated.
In the early days, but those things never look like they're real objects.
Right.
So, I mean, in many ways, those metaphors work best when they are abstracted and maybe proving that the metaphors didn't make sense to begin with. If you look at something, just look at Apple's OSs over time, icons get prettier and prettier and prettier, and by the time you get to Mac OS X, they're like little photographs of objects. Right. I mean, okay, maybe we've beaten this metaphor to death. Let's move. Maybe it's time for something new. There's no reason for a digital book to emulate page turning. Right. That's just silly. And
although ironically, Microsoft patented the page turn, or was going to patent the page turn.
But also ironically never used it in anything.
Never did.
So,
but they own it.
Well, no, I mean, if you use like a Kindle application on the iPhone or iPad, I mean, one of the things I really like about it is you can it makes sense of the device. In other words, you're going to be holding the device in a certain way. So what makes sense to turn a page? Do you really want to flip it with your finger, which you can do? No, you want to tap the edge of the screen because that's where your finger is.
Right.
Tap, 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 and the page progresses. It makes sense, and it takes advantage of the form factor. It's smart. Anyway, there's a lot going on here.
I think it's very interesting. I think you can really make the case that maybe this is the post-modern UI or the big advance in UI to get away from.
Yeah, no, and I agree with that. Although I would just, a lot of people are like, oh, the boxes are awfully plain, and
it does look plain.
Whatever.
Yeah.
Well, it does look plain until you have something on there. I mean,
well, but it may be saying, look at contents.
It looks plain until you log in, and then it has your stuff on it. And I would also remind people, as far as looking plain goes, consider a grid of icons on a typical iPhone screen, and tell me what information that those icons can relay to you beyond the fact that this is the application that does this. That basically all you can do is put a little badge on it that has a number.
Right.
So you can say, look, I have 2 unread emails, or I have 1 appointment, or 1 missed message, or whatever. The icons on the tiles on the Windows Phone start screen can relay information, not just number. So, for example, on the calendar, it says record Windows Weekly Podcast, Skype, 2 o'clock to 3:30.
Right.
I don't have to go into my calendar to see that that's the next thing on my schedule. In the iPhone, I would have to go into the calendar because it would say 1.
That's why I'm a fan of Android widgets. Same idea, where you're putting information there. Although maybe a little clunky compared to what Microsoft's doing with this new UI.
It's fun. I mean, what they've done. There's goofy little things, you know, like the Xbox Live icon, the games icon, has your avatar, and it's actually your avatar. So if you took the time to customize your avatar on Xbox Live on the console, he appears here, and he kind of interacts with the logo. You know, the logo punches him around a little bit. He peeks up, you know, beyond the bottom of the screen. It's cute. You know, the pictures tile is customized with one of my own photographs. The music and videos tile is customized with artist imagery from the last band that I listened to in the music player.
Oh, that's neat.
My own tile, there's a tile, you know, called Me, and it flashes between a picture of me, the text Me, and then also my very latest social networking post, whatever it was. You know, the first, you know, X number of characters, whatever can fit on the tile. And all of these tiles, as plain as they supposedly are, relay information of some kind and animate in some way. You know, one of the cool little animations you see on the email tiles is as email comes in, it doesn't change from 1 to 4. It kind of rotates over a little wheel. It's like 2, 3, 4, 5. You know, the number actually goes up in real time as you're looking at it. It's kind of a neat little effect. And there's a lot of those kind of cool little animation effects as you do stuff, you know, in the interface. It's nice.
Very interesting.
Yeah.
I think it makes sense that Microsoft should, and this is my sense, tell me if I'm wrong, sit back and say, let's reinvent the UI. Let's start from, as you said, start from scratch.
The phone is not a PC.
Right. And you know, this was, I think, the mistake they made early on with Windows Mobile and Windows CE was it was really kind of a Windows shrunk. And
it was exactly Windows shrunk. In fact, you know, on a pseudo PC device, like those very first handheld PCs, you could be like, all right, it's going to look like Windows 95. That's fine. But then you put it on a handheld device. And, of course, what they did was they had the start button down in the bottom left of the screen, just like they do on a computer. Well, people would hit it by mistake all the time because you're holding it down there.
Yeah.
Right? So eventually they moved it to the top, and you can kind of see how it evolved. But, yeah, clearly these devices require something unique. I mean, to their credit, Apple didn't port the Mac down to a little device. No. I mean, they didn't do that either. But I think here we are. You know, it's 3 years later, and I think already this app-driven model, which is arguably almost certainly Apple's biggest strength in the mobile market, is the size of this app market. It's funny how this design betrays that design to be a little bit of a weakness because you become very reliant on that. You know, Apple makes a big deal out of, you know, we have 225,000, we have 250,000 apps, you know, whatever it is. It's a big deal for them, and it is a big deal because it speaks to the strength of that market. But it also, on a more general level, speaks to the kind of inanity of what you have to do on that phone because it's like in, out, in, out, in, out. And, you know, the ability to multitask doesn't change the in-out thing. It just changes how you go about in and outing of the applications. I mean, you're still going app, 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 app. I mean, it's like DOS, you know? No, I mean, it really is. I mean, on a multitasking GUI system like Windows or the Mac, you can switch between applications, you know, in space. You don't have to. You don't run one, close it, run one, close it. I mean, in many ways, even though iPhone has multitasking now, you really, you know, because of the, you know, you kind of app, you know, close it, app, you know, it really is in many ways like DOS. Now, by the way, that would be true on Windows Phone too if you were running apps. But again, I think the strength of this system is, in many cases, you won't have to run individual apps, although you will. But they've really thought through some of these integrated experiences in ways that I really think people are going to respond to. And again, you know, it's one thing to see a Windows Phone and to play with it in real life, but you have to see it with your stuff. Honestly, just by logging onto this thing with your Windows Live ID and watching this stuff kind of just pop all over the phone, it's unbelievable. It really is neat.
I can't wait.
Yeah.
Now, we can't see it except
and I don't have a good way to show it to you. I'm sorry. I suppose I could.
That's all right.
I mean, that's just, you can't see. I mean,
people are putting up videos, I'm sure, by now. Yeah, that's pretty, that's a pretty good shot.
Yeah, I mean, it's, you know, I can't navigate.
Do you know, are all the phones going to have a gigahertz processor? I mean,
yeah. So there's So there's minimum hardware specs for Windows Phone. There's a lot of them actually, and one of them, yes, is a minimum of a gigahertz processor. 2 screen resolutions. I want to say they're the more common one's going to be the HD2 style device, 800 by 480. And I think the lower end one, which is probably what's on this phone, is what's on this phone, is probably 320 by 480.
It's interesting that they're specifying 2 resolutions. This is one of the things that makes it hard to develop for Android. There's so many resolutions, you know.
But this is the experience with Windows Mobile, because these OEMs could make whatever size screen they wanted. Right. And if some company came to Microsoft and said, look, we want to make a specialty device, and it's going to run this crazy resolution that no one else uses, they'd be like, okay. And they would customize it just for those guys, you know.
So not anymore, though, you're saying?
Oh, no.
No. What about tablets?
So I asked them about that, and currently they say they have no plans for that. But I have to think that this would be an obvious thing on a tablet. Some of the other cool stuff on here, by the way, is they require you to have at least a 5-megapixel camera. It has specific hardware buttons. You know about the start button, the search button. This integrated search stuff is awesome, by the way. Back buttons. By the way, God bless the back button.
Oh yeah.
I have.
Oh yeah.
I have been a little bitch about the back button on the iPhone, and let me tell you something. You go back to a phone that has one, and you want to cry. You're so happy.
I'm with you on that. This is a Steve. Button. This is a Steve. We don't like buttons.
Oh, this is the greatest feature ever on a phone, and we've had them forever. And I don't why they don't have a back button. I'll never know. Anyway, but they also have they specify a hardware button for the camera, right? And the coolest thing about this is you can lock this thing down. You can lock it with a password, like you would, probably any smartphone these days. But if you hold down the camera button when the phone is off and locked, it will actually open the camera and allow you to take pictures and videos without logging in. You can't do anything else. Like you couldn't go to another app. But they call this pocket to picture, right? I wrote about this. I wrote about this in the book. This happened to me on the trip. I was with my dad in Colorado.
Right.
We pulled up to an intersection, and he said, "Oh, look, a deer! Take a picture." And I whipped out the iPhone, and I'm like, "Oh my God!" And I'm trying to get it, and I'm like, "Come on!"
5 minutes later,
and then I have to log in, and it won't do it. And then I'm on the wrong screen, and I can't find the camera app. Right. And then what I ended up taking was like a blurry picture of this thing's butt as it went behind a tree, because that's what the experience is like, right? Anyone who has an iPhone knows that what I just said happens all the time. And with this phone, they've actually engineered it so that that won't happen, and it's pretty damn quick. It's nice, It's nice. Now, if you do that and it's locked, you can if you try to hit start or whatever, you'll get the lock screen, and then you can log in again. And it has such an awesome lock screen. I don't know if you can see this.
It's pretty, yeah. Tilted a little bit because of the glare, but
yeah. Let's see if I can.
Boy, I love those AMOLED screens. I think, oh, gorgeous! Is that gorgeous? Yeah,
just gorgeous.
Yeah. And how do you unlock it? Slide to unlock?
So actually, if you're familiar with, it's you slide up to unlock it. Like
just
that.
Like a Zune. Okay.
But yeah, and I was gonna say it's actually just like a Zune, because if you're not sure what to do, you're looking at this like, oh, how do I get into this thing? If you actually tap it, it jumps. See how, I don't know if you can see that, but it will bump.
Yeah.
It's like, look,
push me up.
Down.
Push me up.
The other thing it does, there's all kinds of little things. I could go on all day about the little things, but on the screen where on the camera app screen where you're looking, through it at something, you've obviously in the middle of the screen you've got what you're looking at, but over on the left, there's this probably 20, 25 pixel wide slice of the previous picture in the camera roll. And the reason it's there is to remind you that you don't have to exit this interface. You can actually just swipe it over and go back and look at that picture you just took, and any other pictures. You can scroll through the whole list. If it didn't come out right, immediately, it's not hard to go in and out. And then you just swipe back and you take another one if it didn't come out right or whatever. Just little touches like that. And I think that stuff is in many ways more important than cut and paste. I know that's a crazy thing to say, but I would just, a lot of people who, especially Apple guys, who kind of read my stuff and say, what the hell, you've been really harsh on Apple all these years, and now you're giving Microsoft a pass. I think you're missing the point, which is that when the iPhone was out and was new, I recognized that it was the greatest thing in the world. But I was also saying it's not perfect. Here's the list of things that are wrong with it. And like I said, Apple fixed those things over time. This is the same thing. It's not perfect. You could mention any feature, and I can tell you exactly what's wrong with it. Everything is missing something. But that doesn't mean it's not awesome. It's the same thing. I mean, that's my job. I'm a reviewer. I pick things apart. But I also think about the sort of normal people that would use this thing. And I just know from experience, when people look at this, they're like, oh, my God. You know, it's so awesome the way you can do stuff on this phone. It's awesome the way that the pictures come up. You know, it really, really works well. It's nice.
I can't wait to get one.
I can't wait for you to get one.
I think what we're seeing is huge innovation in the phone space, and I'm glad Microsoft is piping up.
Yeah.
It's very exciting.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. It really is.
It has. We haven't. You know, I'm thinking to PCs. It really wasn't a three-way race in PCs, but this may shape up to be a three or more way race in phones. And we've already talked about this on TWiT, that all of the innovation in digital technology right now is happening on these small devices. This is where the innovation is.
It would be very easy to draw some comparison with the early days of the PC industry. And by PC industry, I don't mean the IBM PC industry. I mean, you know, personal computers in general. And if you look back to the early 1980s, you know, there were companies like Tandy and Commodore and Atari and Apple, obviously, many of which are just long gone, or at least in the PC space, are long gone. We look back at that now, and we sort of talk about how inevitable it was that it consolidated down to a single major player and then some minority players and so forth. You know, that may not actually be the natural market, normal, you know, for every market. And it's not necessarily true that the smartphone market has to follow that same path. On the other hand, we are at such an early stage right now that even if the smartphone market does follow that PC market trend, we are years and years away from that consolidation.
Oh, yes.
Because we're still very much on the way up, you know. And there are going to be false starts and half starts, and companies are going to come and go that we kind of, you know, years from now will forget even existed and all that kind of stuff. To the people who think that Windows Phone has no chance at all, I would just say, you know, this market is growing in leaps and bounds. You don't understand. Apple could grow at double their current rate, and Windows market is still billions of dollars of industry every year. I mean, it's going to be a big market. So, you know, we'll see. I still don't have any, and I never will have any opinion or feeling about how it's going to do in the market. I can point out to you where this thing is better than what's out there. I can point out to you where it's not. I think it's good enough to compete. I think it's good enough to deserve a part of that pie or whatever. But what does that mean? I think the Zune HD is good enough to deserve part of that pie too. And from what I can tell, it's got the crumbs that the rat dropped, you know, away from the plate. I mean, I don't know. So reality and opinion often don't interact.
It's
but
really interesting.
We'll
yeah. And however, you know, whatever fanboy you subscribe, whatever color your blood runs, this is good for everybody because competition is what stimulates innovation. And I know I sound like a broken record when I say that, but
no, it's important. You know, one of the big complaints I had about the iPad when it first came out is like, you've got this device that really is a different fundamental form factor. I mean, it's the same, you know, it's a slate kind of deal, bigger, but, you know, there should be some concession to that from a UI standpoint. It was a little disappointing that they had the same exact UI. I wouldn't be surprised over time to see the iPad UI and the iPhone, iPod Touch UIs diverge somewhat, not from an application compatibility standpoint, but just from a UI standpoint, because, you know, there's so much more you can do on that bigger device. You know, take advantage of it in more profound ways than they have so far.
Do you use the Zune Marketplace to sync? Do you use ActiveSync? Could you use both? What happens with the Zune Marketplace in this phone?
So the only interaction, and I have to say this is actually a big negative for Windows Phone as far as I'm concerned. The only interaction you have with the phone on a PC is through the Zune PC software. And if you think about the way a Zune HD works or an iPod would work through iTunes, you use a Zune today as you would use a Windows Phone to sync your media collection, music, videos, also pictures, to the device. So if you have a movie you want to put on the phone, I mean, that's the way you have to do it. There's no other way to do it. That's fine. I don't mind that stuff. The problem is they're using Zune as the way that you load large updates onto the phone, as the way you download pictures from the phone. There's no way to do it outside of the Zune software. If you think about any digital camera today, even if they have a crazy proprietary cable like we were talking about earlier, it still runs the same software. If I plug this camera into Windows, or if I plug my iPod, well, actually not my iPod, if I plug my iPhone into Windows, you can use the Windows built-in photo acquisition software to download those pictures and rename them and put them in folders, however it works. You know, you can use whatever application you want. With Windows Phone, at least in this initial version, you can only do that through the Zune software. The problem with that is, I mean, you're going to have the Zune software on there anyway because you want to do the media sync. I mean, okay, fine. But it doesn't have a lot of options in there, at least not in the version I'm using, to do things like name the photos, you know, or name the folder they're going to, or that kind of thing. The photos that you take with the camera are geotagged, and you know they have a lot of good metadata information and all that kind of stuff. So they're not hard to organize. But I think that I don't understand why they broke with the existing system. It worked fine. You know, it works for everyone else, even Apple stuff. You know, on Windows. So why would you do something different? The other kind of weird negative side effect of that is if you have like an Xbox 360 or a PlayStation 3 or whatever device out in your living room, you can plug an iPhone, a Zune, or a portable hard drive, whatever it is, into one of these devices and read the content on there and play it out over your HD TV. If you plug a Windows Phone into an Xbox 360, it doesn't do anything. It doesn't see anything because it just doesn't interact with the outside world in the same way that all these other devices do. So I actually think that's a mistake.
Interesting.
You know,
yeah.
And if you're familiar, and you are, I mean, but if people listening to this are familiar with the way that the iPhone and I guess to the iPod Touch have evolved over time with regards to the online store and what you can do when you're not connected to a PC, it's kind of a mixed bag, right? On the iPhone side, you can do things like browse a pretty complete version of the store, both content store and an app store. But the content store got better over time, right? If I remember correctly, the iPhone version of the iTunes store probably was just music, maybe in its first version.
Yeah, it was just music, then video.
Yeah, they had videos, you know, podcast and whatnot. Yep. One of the nice things on the iPhone now is, and this wasn't true right away, but is true now, is that you can download a new podcast episode. You can't do the wireless sync stuff, which is a shame, but you can at least download an episode.
Well, so you can't subscribe to an episode, which is extremely frustrating on the iPod.
Right, but at least you can get one, right? Yeah. I mean, you're on the road. There is a new version. You can get it. Okay, fine. You know, the Windows Phone Marketplace stuff is a little more limited depending on what you're talking about. It does do wireless sync with your PC, which is awesome over Wi-Fi. That's neat. And you do have over-the-air capabilities for music across the board. So if you want to buy music from the marketplace on the phone when you're on the go, you can do that. If you have a Zune Pass, you can stream songs over the air. It works fine. I've used that. You can download them and buy them. All that stuff works. There's no way to access podcasts, which in my opinion is dumb. TV shows or movies, music videos, all that stuff. You can't get any of that. It's just music. They also have the App Store over the air, but as far as content goes, you're pretty much relegated to music. And what that means is if I'm on a trip and it's a week long and a new, even though I've subscribed to a podcast, if a new episode of that podcast comes out, it would be a little contorted for me to get it on the phone, especially if I was syncing the phone with my media library back at home. Now, not to get off on a complete sidetrack, one of the big advantages of the Zune PC software is that it interacts with Zune devices and now Windows phones in ways that are more elegant than what Apple offers. And you can actually connect your phone as a guest and copy content to and from the device. So I suppose if you were on the road, had a PC, but it wasn't your syncing PC, you could still download a podcast and sync it to the phone from that other PC. So at least you can do that. But again, there's no way to do it just with the phone. And I think that would be the preferable scenario. I hope what I just said makes sense.
And as you point out, that's an evolutionary thing that probably will happen at some point.
I think it's going to, yeah. And by the way, it's I don't know. I mean, they gave us some kind of interim Zune version. It's possible that this version of Zune will never ship, or maybe it ships in a month or something. And then October's going to roll around and Zune 5.0 is going to come out. It's going to have all these extra, features, and who knows? I mean, this stuff could change pretty quickly. I actually don't know. So I'm just telling you the way it is right now.
All right, let's take a break. That was a long
I have more to
review.
say.
I know you do. Well, if you have more to say, hold on. But we do want to take a break because God knows this isn't an infinitely long show, just a somewhat long show.
It just feels like it sometimes.
No, I was and am still very interested. This is an important product, absolutely important product. But I got to talk about another important product right now from the folks at Citrix. It's called GoToMeeting. If you are doing your meetings face-to-face, you're spending a lot of money on travel. If you're trying to do them via teleconference, which a lot of people do to save money on travel, you're putting your attendees to sleep. There is a better way. Okay, I'm being honest here. It's true. You can hear them slowly drift away into limbo. Not with GoToMeeting. GoToMeeting makes it visual, makes it interactive, makes it much more interesting. In fact, I think makes it more effective than a face-to-face meeting. GoToMeeting lets you do sales presentations, of course. You can show the PowerPoint. Here's how it works. You got a client meeting set up. It's going to be a phone meeting. You send them an invitation. You can do it via Outlook. There's an Outlook button. Or you can do it on the phone while with them. Just tell them, GoToMeeting.com. Here's the meeting ID. Now, suddenly, they're seeing your desktop on their computer screen. And when the PowerPoint launches, they see the PowerPoint. You walk them through it. You're on the phone. You're talking. They're seeing. You can give them control. You can have 15 attendees at once if you want. Each of them can have control. You can collaborate together on documents, so it's great for collaboration as well. It's great for training, because if your trainee doesn't have the software, but you do, you just let them use it on your system. It's kind of mind-boggling. There's so many ways to use it. I think the best thing to do is to try it free for 30 days. Absolutely free. No limit to the number of meetings, the length of the meetings. You could use it 24/7 for 30 days if you want. By the way, that's true for the monthly GoToMeeting too when you buy it, because you shouldn't have a limit or a per meeting cost. You want to be able to use this all you want. And it includes, I should mention this, voice over IP and phone teleconferencing. Free. GoToMeeting.com/Windows Weekly. That's the website to go to for a 30-day free trial. GoToMeeting.com/Windows Weekly. I'm not asking you to buy it sight unseen. I'm just asking you to try it. Show your colleagues, your clients. By the way, they don't have to have anything installed ahead of time. You don't want to make your clients be jumping through hoops. It's very easy for them. They're grateful. To be honest, they didn't want to take you to dinner that night. They didn't want to go to they didn't want to go to all that trouble. They just wanted to see your presentation. So that's what you're doing. GoToMeeting.com/Windows Weekly. Give it a try. We thank them so much for their support of Paul's show, the Windows Weekly program. Do you want to say any more about Windows Mobile?
I'm sorry, I was just browsing the Jersey Shore soundtrack.
On your, I almost said Zune, on your Windows phone.
Same thing. So let's see.
Do you think this is going to stimulate the Zune sales? Right. In the same way that the iPod Touch took off because of the iPhone? Actually, the iPhone came first.
I would like to see Microsoft make a Zune HD2 or whatever that was a Microsoft designed Windows Phone minus the phone stuff. I think that would be smart. Basically their version of the iPod Touch. And I think the reason that would be smart is because it would be an inexpensive way for people to get into this platform and see the cool photo stuff and all that. And Microsoft's online services stuff is fantastic, and that's true for the media just as it is for everything else. I think there's a lot of neat stuff going on beyond the phone. In fact, in many ways, the phone capabilities of this thing are almost an afterthought. I don't mean because they're lousy. I mean because that's not really the primary. I mean, who spends all day on an iPhone making phone calls? You're
not me.
No, I mean, you don't, right? But it's not, not for the reasons we might joke about. I mean, it's because there's other stuff. I mean, the other stuff is more interesting. It makes phone calls, by the way, and it works fine. But that's not, to me, that's not the focus.
It's funny how we've gotten away from that on phones.
Yeah. It's a phone. What is a phone? Why do we call it a phone? I can't remember. I think that the Zune stuff is what Microsoft said about, a year and a half ago, whenever that was, where they said, we're going to turn this thing into a service. And we all sort of chuckled like that doesn't make any sense. It actually makes a lot of sense. And there's a little bit of, when you see how they're doing it, I mean, there's a little bit of confusion, I think, with this phone about the Zune software, because, the music and video experience is not called Zune. It's called music and video. Zune is a service that's inside of it by default, but it could be augmented by other services, Pandora or whatever else. I mean, Apple could write they never will, but Apple could write an iTunes or iPod interface that would go into this just as well. The point, though, is it's interacting with the service, right? You're interacting with the software and the PC as well, of course, but I mean, you have this online service behind it. One of the neat things that's available in modern versions of the Zune platform. So if you have an Xbox 360, you can see this. If you have the version of the Zune software that you have to use with the phone, you can see this. Is that anything you've ever purchased on Zune is available for streaming, like they've kept track of it. And in the current PC software, you don't really see that. But in the new PC software, you do. So, for example, one of the cool things I was able to do, I downloaded like an old episode of Battlestar Galactica at one point. I think I downloaded a couple of episodes of The Office TV show and some other things. So, every time a Zune version would come out, I would buy some content, play it, see how it worked and all that, write about it, and then I'd kind of forget about it. Well, all that stuff is actually still available to me for streaming or downloading from anywhere as long as I log in with my Zune account. So I can go to my Xbox 360 in the den, and I can watch these things that I've already purchased anytime I want. They're just there, That stuff is exposed to the Zune PC software as well. So one of the things I did do this week, just for, again, for testing purposes, is I purchased an HD movie from the Zune Marketplace on my PC. I never even downloaded it. I just purchased it. And then I went into the den, and I turned on the Xbox 360, and I booted up the Zune interface, which, by the way, this fall will also include music capabilities, including Zune Pass. And I streamed a 1080p version of the movie over the internet to my Xbox 360. It was fantastic. This is one of those things. There's no doubt that Apple, another one of Apple's big strengths is the strength of their media, their content library.
You
right?
have to think Microsoft's a little jealous of all of that and would like to have that kind of power and revenue.
Right. But from a capability standpoint, this capability, which doesn't currently exist on the iTunes platform in any way, at all, is actually a huge advantage for Microsoft. They don't have as much content. But the fact that you can do this is kind of amazing. It's neat. So they've got it. The
that
Zune,
will be definitely a
as,
differentiator. Yes.
Yeah. And so, but the Zune as a service thing, what that means to me is it's actually already there. Right? It is there. The Zune as a service exists because I can purchase this thing. It's sort of up in the cloud.
Right.
And now I can, as long as I log into my Zune account, I can watch it anywhere I want. That's neat. It's neat. So iTunes doesn't do that. I mean, if you're familiar with Amazon's video on demand service, they actually do that, for example. So if you have purchased a movie from Amazon, you can only download it a certain number of times. So you may go back sometime and try to re-download it, and it will say, hey, you've exceeded your limit. But you could stream that thing from Amazon anytime you want, as long as you have a compatible device, like that Roku box or whatever.
Right.
So the Zune service in that way works a lot like the Amazon stuff.
And I suppose you read about this UltraViolet.
No.
This is a new DRM. Microsoft's a party to it from the DECE, the Digital Economy Ecosystem Content.
Nice. They sound friendly and eco-friendly.
The idea is it's exactly what you just talked about. One DRM that you buy from any vendor, and it plays on all devices.
So let me ask you something. Would one DRM be better than no DRM?
No.
No.
But, well, it's better than what we've got, though, which is that you buy something on Amazon, but you can't play it on another device or whatever. Actually, Amazon's got it pretty well. The only drawback to UltraViolet at this point, you've got to
say Apple.
Apple and Disney are non-signatories. Everybody else, Microsoft, all the major motion picture companies except for Disney.
So what you just said to me then is it's no different from today.
It's dead. Yeah.
Basically today we still have Apple and everyone else. So.
Yeah.
I suppose if anyone made any inroads on Apple's market dominance in this area, maybe they would jump on board at that point. But there's no reason for them to do that, right? I mean, what's the advantage to Apple?
No, exactly. They'd like to corner the market. There's a huge advantage to consumers. I think it's interesting because companies can make, there's two calculuses a company makes. One is what's best for the bottom line, in general, and then there's this longer term, more deep, more intelligent calculus, which is, well, if you make your customers happy in the long run, it's better for the bottom line.
Well, okay, but
nobody makes that calculus.
One of the things, and you'll appreciate this one. I'm an Apple TV fan and user, and I love the thing. But the thing, it kind of sits still for a long time. And there's always this worry that they're just going to forget about it.
Yeah, any day now.
How much nicer would it be if I could use as a consumer? I mean, not nicer for Apple, but nicer for me. I mean, if the content that I had ever purchased from iTunes was always available to me over the internet from whatever device.
Yep.
that would be better for me. You know, Apple's not going to do that because it doesn't make sense for them. But, you know, there's always this fear with Apple TV that this is what I use to get content out in the, or at least it has been. I mean, lately I've actually been doing a lot of 360 stuff. But, you know, historically, Apple TV has been how I get stuff out to the HD TV.
Right.
Well, what happens, you know, they stop making it, they stop updating it. I mean, at some point, new versions of iTunes come out. Maybe it's not compatible, or maybe it's not compatible with some new feature. You know, they have to update it to do things like that iTunes LP stuff or whatever. You know, eventually, it just goes away. I mean, there's always that fear with Apple TV, and you kind of see like how Apple can kind of ignore something if it's not popular. You know, so there is a worry there. I mean, I agree with what you're saying, I guess, in general, but I'd like to, you know, it would be nice if this stuff was unfettered.
No, that's what I'm saying. We're in agreement. I'm saying
no, we can't agree, Leo.
I'm saying
I don't
if companies really cared about customers, they would do the right thing, and in the long run, it would be the right thing for their bottom line as well. It's just hard for them to see that, is I guess what I'm saying.
Sure. It's like convincing a small child who's ranting that if he would just calm down, he could have that Oreo.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. It's impulse control.
Yeah.
All right. Moving along. I don't want to hustle you. I guess we could still talk about smartphones.
No, we can. Listen, there's going to be a lot more Windows Phone stuff in the future.
One more question from our chat room, and I have a feeling you don't want to answer this, but I'll let you say that.
I don't want to answer it?
Well, no, because you can't. Battery life.
Oh, I see. Battery life. Oh,
because it's specific to that phone.
Yeah, it's meaningless in this case. Microsoft has told me, and they made a public statement about this, that they've been heavily testing the battery life stuff on devices that would be meaningful. So the battery life on this is not great, this prototype device. My understanding is that there are 3 different prototype devices out there, and I don't know how they compare. This thing gets worse battery life than my iPhone, so I'm not sure how else to say it. I mean, it lasts more than 2 hours, but if I were to leave the house at 9 o'clock in the morning and actually use it, I bet the battery would be dead before 3 o'clock in the afternoon. It's not.
This is just the way it is with all these.
Yeah, it's not good in any meaningful way. But I don't think that's. It's not representative of the platform.
Exactly. You can't. We can't say till a production device is shipped.
Yeah, I mean, I can tell you what it is for this, but I wouldn't take that to mean it.
Yeah, it's Windows Phone. Yeah. Does it have any apps specifically for improving battery life or paying attention to it, or power management, that kind of thing?
Oh, yeah, of course. Yeah, sure. I mean, one of the things, so consider, by the way, I've just described this system that is highly connected to every social network on Earth. I mean, one of the issues there is, you don't want to. So if we think back to the short-lived Kin platform, which we all love so much, one of the many things that people complained about with the Kin was that it was really connected, but it didn't actually have a live connection to what was going on. It would update in 15-minute bursts.
Right.
Windows Phone works similarly, except that it's dynamic and it's based on different conditions, like whether it's powered plugged into the wall, how well the battery life is, what you've set the brightness settings to, and all that kind of other stuff. So it will actually dynamically change the way that it pulls for things like that based on the conditions. So it's a little more intelligent, but it kind of works in basically the same way, which is a cute way of saying it doesn't sit there with a funnel wide open to the internet. It tries to be intelligent about how it works.
Right.
So yeah, I mean, there are.
That's the way to improve, by the way, battery life on all these devices, is to cut back on how much they're checking the internet.
Right. One of the shocking things, coming from the Windows world like I have, many, many years ago when I bought my first Macintosh, it was an iBook. I bought it in early 2001 before Mac OS X came out, maybe late 2000, somewhere around there, was how aggressive Apple is about power management, right? And they've gotten even more aggressive over time. And you can see Microsoft try to emulate them, especially in Windows 7. And by aggressive, I mean you do things like you dim the screen as quickly as possible. It seems like with a Mac laptop, you're typing away,
right,
and you turn over here to do something, and you come back and the screen's off, right? Well, no, but am I right? I mean, you're a Mac user. You get it, right? So Apple's devices also do the same thing. They're very aggressive about power management. If you're not using it, that thing's going to shut right off. Windows Phone works the same way, and I've been very interested to see how they do it. In fact, for me, because I'm writing the book, it has been aggravating how quickly this thing shuts off, because I'm trying to document something it's doing, and I start typing and it's off, and it's like, and it's hard to get it not to do that. I actually have I don't have it in front of me here, but I have a list somewhere. There are certain applications that actually trigger a mode in the phone that leaves it on longer. I'm positive it's by design. So, for example, if you're looking at a map in the Maps application, which is fantastic, by the way, or if you're using the camera,
right,
it doesn't power down very quickly,
right, because they know you're looking at it.
Yeah, I mean, it's like they thought, well, in these cases, people will want this thing to be running even though they're not touching it,
right?
Yeah, which, when you think about it, makes a lot of sense. And I think there are a couple of others. Those are the ones I remember off the top of my head. But yeah, I mean, there's there's all the brightness and the controls in here. So yeah, I mean, but I think a lot of it is automated. And that situation I described early on in this conversation was what Microsoft told me about it, was that intelligently behind the scenes, it's trying to, not kill the battery. Now, as far as social networking updates goes, you can, of course, refresh the view manually. So if you're, going in and out of something and you want to refresh the feed, all those feeds, you can refresh the feeds for the entire feed. You can refresh the photo feeds. You can refresh just a particular contact. Like if you want to see just if that person has updated more recently than the feed was updated, you can do that. I mean, there's all kinds of stuff like that built in as well.
All right. Let's move on to... no,
okay.
I'm done. I was feeding you questions from the chat room, and I'm sure there are many more. And as time goes by, we'll talk more about it.
We can do a little bit of this every week. So I get a million of them. Yeah.
I get a million of them. But let's move on, because there's a big security flaw we talked about with Steve yesterday.
Yeah. Yeah. What did he say about this?
Ooh. He spent a long time talking about it. It's a significant zero-day flaw that affects all versions of Windows going back to NT. Microsoft, as you mentioned, has a short-term fix, but doesn't yet have a update.
I wouldn't even call it a fix. It's a workaround. It's not a fix at all.
Yeah. Turns off icons.
It literally, one of the ways you can tell that something has gone horribly wrong with your computer is if you turn it on and all of your icons have been replaced by white blank icons.
Right.
That's the fix. It actually...
The bug is in...
Because those things are shortcuts. They're not actual icons.
The bug is in the shortcut icon rendering library.
Yeah. These are the LNK files, right? So if you're looking at if you have a button on your taskbar in Windows 7, you have a shortcut in your start menu in any version of Windows, those things are all shortcuts. They're LNK files.
Right.
There's a bug that dates, like you said, dates back to NT. I would put it more like it affects every single supported version of Windows there is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So when I made fun of Apple a couple of weeks ago because there was a bug in their signal sensing logic for the iPhone, and we were giving you too many bars, and I thought that was dumb. Magnify that by 1,000, and that's how freaking dumb this is.
Well, it gives an attacker control of your computer, and there's already some
shortcut file.
Because of a shortcut.
And by the way, this is how easy it is. Look at the shortcut. If your computer can display the shortcut, you have been exploited.
And that can even be on a web page.
Yep.
Not good.
So
not good.
No. Now, so Microsoft has published a workaround that will render all of your icons, moot. I mean, they all these beautiful icons that are on your desktop or elsewhere in your system will turn into plain white icons. All these shortcut icons, I should say. I guess you could do that. I guess you could just not connect your computer to the internet. That would be one of
that would be the other fix.
But they're not going to say this because I don't think they know how quickly they can do this. It's very clear that Microsoft is going to fix this as soon as possible.
Oh, yeah.
The next time that they have a regularly scheduled security update, I want to say is August 8th. Or let me look at the calendar. Yeah, August 8th, second Tuesday, is August 8th. That I have to think that's going to be the latest. I mean,
August 10th. August 10th.
August 10th. Okay, so we're talking about 2 weeks from today. That looks like
they have to. They have to.
They're going to have to do it before then. This is a really serious security problem. So, yeah, we'll see. We'll see. Attack of the white icons. It's good stuff. Speaking of DOS, this is a good way to turn your beautiful GUI into a plain-looking thing. This
is one of those things where you just feel for them. I think
I don't. This is idiotic. How could they have how could this possibly have lasted this long? It's crazy.
Well, not only lasted this long, but as Steve pointed out, lasted through a number of security code reviews. Remember, Ballmer did it in XP.
Absolutely, yeah.
And this code is ubiquitous in Windows. It gets run all the time. It's painful.
Yeah, but you know what? Windows Phone's going to be great, Leo. So let's just.
You know, in some ways, I mean, if you look at Apple, the desktop operating system is a low priority. It really is moving to portable, and that's the priority at this point.
So, yep. It's unfortunately for Microsoft, desktop and server versions of Windows are a priority, and apparently.
Yeah. Hey, are the results? I know the quarterly results come out today. It's been a huge week for Intel, for AMD even, which would have showed a profit if they didn't have to write down some factories they built. Huge for Apple, one of the biggest quarters in their history. In fact, it may be, and this is the interesting thing to watch, Apple's revenue.
Revenues, yeah.
Not revenue. I'm sorry. Yeah, revenue. Because profit will always be higher for Microsoft, but revenue may exceed Microsoft's.
Maybe, yeah. Did you see that Microsoft surpassed Apple's market cap this week?
Oh, it's a seesaw battle, isn't it?
Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah, I knew it would be. I mean, that's a meaningless number. In fact, revenues is too.
I didn't actually report on it.
Right. Because a profit is really what counts, and Microsoft is hideously profitable.
Well, yeah. So Microsoft makes software for the most part.
They sell bits.
And that's why, right? Apple is on a very aggressive evolution update too, right? They every year they replace every single one of their devices.
Which means new profits.
That's you got to keep. It's a treadmill. You know, if you can't sit still for too long.
Yep.
With Microsoft software, you sit still for 3 years at a time.
Right.
That gives you a chance to. That's it's not just the creation of software is cheaper. It's the product you have lasts in the market longer.
Right.
So that's just one of the many reasons these companies aren't directly comparable, even though obviously they compete in a lot of the same markets.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So the Microsoft earnings are not out yet, but we should check before we leave, to see if they've happened.
Connect pricing, we just saw it. It was what we thought, right? $149 for the.
Yeah, it was exactly what we thought. But they announced a couple of other things. Yeah. I just ordered a bunch of Connect stuff. I can't wait.
I can't wait. Me too. It was the most fun I've had playing a video game in a long time.
Be an idiot, yeah.
Being an idiot in my own room, exactly.
So the Connect is $150, but that's what we knew. A couple of other things. There's a bundle that they're going to sell with a new low-end version of the Xbox 360 for $300. That version of the Xbox 360 is going on sale in August. You can pre-order it now on Amazon and elsewhere for $200.
That's going to have solid-state memory.
Yeah, 4 gigabytes. Now,
is that enough?
Funny. So interestingly, and this gives you an idea of the limitations of my own mind. Without looking it up, I started writing a story about how crazy bad that was, and that didn't they have a version that had so much more than that? And on and on I went, and then I looked, and actually, this is significantly higher than what they were providing before, because before they had those little memory unit cards,
right?
With like 64 megabytes of RAM or some silly amount. So the problem with 4 gigabytes of storage is that you can't copy an entire game to the storage with that. Now, hopefully, my understanding is that it's internal storage. This suggests that Microsoft will be selling add-on hard drives like they've done before. So maybe for $100 or something, you could purchase a 125 or 250 gigabyte hard drive after the fact. That might be okay. I would say that this version of the console is very much targeted at casual gamers and that initial Connect crowd. The people who they don't care. They don't have the same concerns I do. They're not going to be downloading lots of content to their internal storage and so forth. And by the way, we just talked about this. You can stream HD movies to an Xbox 360 that you purchase on Zune. You don't have to download them to the box.
Right.
Now, of course, on this box, you couldn't download them, but the nice thing is you could still stream it. So it's not a limitation, I think, for real people, for a lot of real people. Right. For the hardcore gamer types, obviously.
Would this be a good choice, given that, for a home theater PC, if you're willing to?
Absolutely, yeah.
Would it be quieter?
I was going to say, if anything, it would be even quieter, for those purposes. Right. Sure. Although the Xbox 360, the one that's out now, is not very is very quiet already. So,
and the noise on the Xbox was really the optical drive, not the hard drive, as I remember. Or is that wrong?
There's a lot of things. I think it was 3 factors. It was the optical drive, the internal fans, a fan. I don't remember if they had fans or fans, and the hard drive. Yeah.
Although, so the fan would be, it's going to run cooler with solid state. I might get. I haven't yet bought the new Xbox. Maybe I'll just get this one.
I was waiting to see what they were going to do with the low end version because I was thinking of selling the previous consoles that we have. I guess we have 2 of them now. So I've got a low end console with a high end hard drive. My son has the Pro console with a 60 gig hard drive, and I was thinking of getting rid of those and getting him a new one. But see, this 4 gig version wouldn't be good enough for him. He would need storage because he's going to want to copy the games to the hard drive. Right. There are many reasons to do that, and you may recall one of the tips we had here was doing it in case you ever scratch the disc, because once it's on the hard drive, that scratched disc won't prevent you from playing the game.
Right.
But if it's not copied to the hard drive, you're screwed. And if you have 4 gigs of storage, it's not going to cut it. Now, the Xbox 360 also supports USB storage, like memory keys. I don't remember what the limit is, but hopefully it's more than 4 gigabytes.
Oh, if I put a 32 gig memory key on there,
that would do it too. Yeah.
That might just do the job.
Well, I should say, I think it would do it too. Assuming you can copy a game. I've never experimented with this. So
I will do this because I have that perfect ring on the MW2 disc, and so I'm going to borrow somebody's.
Yep, copy to hard drive, and then that just fine.
Yeah. So, and I will try it with a USB key. It'd be really kind of great to have it on this USB key and then be able to move it to another.
It would be kind of. I'm gonna check that now. I'm gonna look that up. I'm curious. As far as the Kinect stuff goes, by the way, one of the other things that's happening is the bundles, including a game, is coming with a game. Kinect Adventures, which is one of those, the demo games they showed when they launched it. And then Kinect games are actually going to be a little cheaper than regular games. It's not inexpensive, but $50 instead of $60. And that's actually a pretty decent savings. And I think this is an attempt to get the Kinect games selling a little better with that casual crowd who wouldn't be too inclined to spend, a high dollar on a game, and also maybe bring them more in line with what's probably typical on the Wii side from a software perspective.
Yeah, it's for that Wii group.
Yeah,
but that with Kinect, see, because Kinect's $150, so that with Kinect is what now, $359 total, right? Was it 200 with a 4 gig with a solid state is 200, right?
It's 200 just for the drive. If you buy it with the Kinect, it's 300.
Oh, now you're talking.
Yeah.
And when will that be available?
So I mean, you're basically getting the Kinect for $100 in that bundle. Plus, you get a game, right? And that game,
like the river rafting thing. Yeah.
Yep. That's a good deal. Yeah, it's a good deal.
And when will that?
November 4.
Okay, that might be my Christmas present.
The console itself is going to be the first week of August, I think, or second week of August. If you just want the console, the low end version,
right? They're saying in the chat room 16 gigs per disc limit.
16. Okay, so that's enough for a game.
It's enough for a game. And you can have 2 discs at once. So I have a ton of old 16 gig USB
Even 4 gig might be enough for a game if it doesn't take up the whole DVD.
Right. 8 gig would definitely
But you have other stuff on there. I mean, 4 gigs of internal storage is not enough, period, because the OS is on there. You're going to download little game add-ons and whatever. I mean, there's going to be stuff in there, so I wouldn't rely on that. But yeah, the fact that you can put 16 gigs of storage via USB, I wonder if you can do it with the game. I'm going to have to try the install a game to USB thing. I like that.
Wouldn't that be cool?
That would be interesting, yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
It's nice. It's all coming together, baby.
Sweet. And nobody's reported any red ring issues with the new one.
Not yet.
Oh, you see, you've been burned.
How many times? Listen, you'd have to be working at Microsoft to have had more red rings than I have.
I know.
You kidding me?
I know. Yeah, I've had
even
3
my
just by
son's
myself.
has now red ringed. In fact, his just came back from, Mesquite, Texas, less than a week ago.
Right.
I mean, the only one I've only owned one Xbox that hasn't red ringed, not counting the new S version. And I've owned like 9 of these things. I mean, think about it.
9. All right.
Yeah.
Let's take a break.
Right.
I think you need one. You desperately need a break, and maybe Microsoft's earnings will come out They usually do it at the end of the close of the stock market, which is about 9 minutes. It'll be about 9 minutes.
Is that what it is?
Yeah, usually it's at that time. What they usually do, I think, is they put out a press release and then they have a analyst call. But
or as they call it, a post-mortem.
Post-mortem, which is not appropriate. My Pilates teacher keeps asking me, when's Microsoft stock going to go up?
Right. You heard there's a little supposed, I mean, there's a reported little internal revolt about that because the stock price has been stagnant for so long. And, yeah.
I told her as soon as my pelvic floor is as solid as a rock, Microsoft's price will go up.
I'm sorry. I just want to make sure I heard what you said. Pelvic
That's
floor?
Pilates, baby. That's Pilates talk.
I'm not familiar with this.
It's all about the core.
I'll tell you one thing I've been doing. I've been working. I worked. This is how you can tell you're in full-blown writing a book mode.
Yeah.
You dream about the book.
Oh.
Saturday night, Sunday morning at 3 o'clock in the morning, I woke up thrashing around, and I went downstairs and worked for 2 hours. But during the day, my kids are home on school vacation. Obviously, it's summer, so my wife has taken the kids to the beach every day, and I'm home alone.
I hate that.
And if you had like a spy camera in my house, you would think I am a crazy person. I get up periodically so the blood doesn't all drain into my feet and I die.
Yeah, that's good.
And I walk around in a circle in my house.
Yeah.
Around the center part of the house, it's like the stairs, and I talk to myself.
Yeah, sure.
And even to me, I seem crazy. It's like full blown like mania mode. I need for this to be done. It's just getting it's too much.
You'll get no sympathy from me, Mr. Thurrott. I warned you about this. I said, don't write another book, Paul. Don't. You're crazy.
No, I don't know what I was thinking.
You're crazy, man. All right, we're going to take a break. Come back, talk about Windows 7 feature of the week and our tip of the week, and, of course, your software of the week, too. But before we do that, it's time to talk about Carbonite. This is my tip of the week. Back your son of a gun computer up. How many times I got to tell you? I still get calls from people all the time saying, oh, it just breaks my heart. I lost the baby pictures or the wedding pictures. Or I thought computers were supposed to never fail. Or so, I don't know what they were thinking. and I just, hard drives die. And if you've got a laptop, laptops get lost and stolen. And your data is on there. Now, at least back up to an external drive. I mean, do that. But there is a disadvantage to backing up to the external drive. That is, there are a couple of them. First of all, if the external drive gets stolen or destroyed in a fire or something, you've lost everything. And with an external drive backup, you can't go online anywhere and get your files back, and you can with Carbonite. See, Carbonite is the perfect adjunct to your external backup. You really should have 3 backups. The original, a nearline backup that's an external drive, and an off-site backup so that's disaster time, when disaster recovery. And Carbonite is so good at that. You put it on your system, Mac or PC, immediately starts backing up automatically. There's a free 15-day trial. The 15-day trial has some limitations in it. I think you have to do some stuff manually, like video manually. But once you have the paid version, it'll all do this. Any of your personal files are on your internal drive, no matter how big, less than $5 a month, $55 a year. And you get 2 free months if you use the coupon code Windows Weekly when you sign up. So here's the deal. Try it for free. Coupon code Windows Weekly, Carbonite, CARBONITE.com. If you like it, if it was working for you, you'll get 2 months free when you sign up. And it's $55 a year. Actually, I guess it'd be $55 for 14 months that way. Really a great service. I put it on all my laptops, especially those, my kids' laptops where something's going to happen and I'm going to get the call. I encourage you to put it on all your systems too. Carbonite.com. Use the offer code Windows Weekly. We really like them. And I stand by them. I use them. Carbonite.com. All right, our Windows 7 feature of the week, Paulie.
Yes, what is the feature of the week?
I'll tell you. It is Windows Live Essentials 2011.
Yes.
How quickly
so I've
you
been waiting to talk about Windows Live Essentials because I have that listed as a feature. But, of course, this year they're replacing it with a new version. So I figured we're getting close enough. I'll just write up the new version. And if you haven't looked at it yet, it is available in public beta. It's mostly very good stuff. In case you're not familiar with Windows Live Essentials for some reason, this is that semi-infamous part of Windows that is no longer bundled directly with the OS, but instead comes separately as a free download. And it involves such things as the mail application, Windows Live Mail, instant messaging with Messenger, photo management and editing through Photo Gallery, Movie Maker for video editing. I just noticed to my chagrin this week that they no longer have any way to really edit audio directly. You have to have a video, and then you can turn it into just audio, I guess. But it's kind of a weird limitation. And then the awesome blog application, Windows Live Writer. This is a fairly significant update, I have to say, across the board, especially for the Messenger application, which is becoming like Microsoft's PC-based hub for this social networking aggregation stuff I've been talking about with regards to Windows Phone. The best, if you're thinking about getting a Windows Phone at all, it's worth going to live.com, signing in with your account, and managing that account, managing which social networks you're connected to, right? So if you have a Flickr account, Facebook account, whatever, whatever's available there, connect it to your Windows Live account, and then you can see that stuff on the phone. But you can see you can kind of preview that today with Windows Live Messenger, because by default, it shows this kind of social networking view that is the same thing you're going to see on the phone. It's all the pictures and social networking updates and so forth that your friends are doing all in one interface. So Microsoft has decided that rather than try to compete with the Facebooks of the world and so forth, they'll just integrate it all into this application. It works really, really well. I'm not personally into that approach on the PC side. I think that the application can be a little busy and so forth, but I think for a lot of people, it's a big deal. But the mail application is first rate. The photo gallery application is absolutely first rate. It's just a bunch of good stuff. So I've already reviewed this, but I'll have a different write-up just about describing the different applications and so forth.
So if I go to get.live.com right now, I'll get the latest of everything.
Yeah, so actually, if you go to get.live.com, you can choose between the current version or the beta version. Ooh. And I'm recommending at this point that you probably want to go with the beta version. So
I just did whatever it said, so I'm not doing it. So I'll have to update to the beta version then.
Yeah, so if you go to that page again, you'll see there's a big blue box at the top that says Do More with Windows, and it says a newer version of Essentials is coming, learn about the beta. And you can click on that to learn about that, but also go download the beta version.
Silly me, I should have listened to you.
That's okay. And there's a Bing bar, so you got that going for you.
I just like saying Bing bar.
I see almost no use at all for the Bing bar, but it's there, if you want it.
Get.live.com sounds so much like live.twit.tv. So, yes. Okay, so I did do more, and then learn about the beta. That's where I should have gone.
Then you can download the beta.
Diggity dang.
It's all right. No, I mean, the current version is fantastic too, actually, if whatever that's worth. But the new version, the Messenger client has been updated significantly. And then beyond Messenger, I think all of the other applications pick up that ribbon-based UI, which is also really nice.
It doesn't like me because I tried to do both at once.
Yeah, you can't do both at once.
I've confused you, haven't I, Windows? I've made you very unhappy. I'm host. So let's move on to the Windows 7 tip of the week.
Yes. This almost sounds like a feature, but the reason I'm calling this out as a tip is the reliability monitor is not new to Windows 7, but most people, I would say, don't even know that it exists. This is a feature that debuted in Windows Vista. So actually in the Windows Vista timeframe, I did write up a feature focus article about it. It was actually easier to find in Vista for whatever that's worth. But what this thing does is it monitors the reliability of your PC over time. So literally from the day that you first install Windows, it monitors reliability. And it gives you a rating for that reliability that adjusts itself over time. If something goes wrong, the reliability rating goes down dramatically. And if nothing goes wrong, the reliability rating goes up just a hair. So it takes a long time to overcome a problem. In fact, I'm looking at mine right now, and on July 3rd, QuickTime Player stopped responding and was closed, right? It didn't get back up to the previous reliability rating until July 11th, over a week later. That's how long it took to recover from that problem. And in that week, it didn't have any other problems. There were no problems that week. So QuickTime Player crashed, and it adjusted the score so much that it literally took a week of trouble-free computing before it came back.
There should be a button that says something like, "It's Apple's fault." And then
Yeah, don't count this in the score.
Don't count it.
No, but I really give Microsoft credit for the reliability monitor, because it's, if anything, it's almost not fair in that it's skewed against Windows. You know, like they're looking at the reliability of your computer, not of Windows.
Right.
In other words, from your perspective as a user, if something crashes, something crashed. It doesn't matter whose fault it was, you know. But the cool thing about the reliability monitor, and I think the important bit here, is that you can actually use it to find solutions. It doesn't always find solutions, but one of the neat things is, and if you click on one of the problems, and you can see what the problems are, like that QuickTime crash, you know, there's always a check for solution button, and it will check Microsoft's online database, and if the problem that caused this thing to crash is a known problem that has a known solution, it will actually optionally apply an update to your computer so that it gets fixed, or a link to where you can download the new version of the program that fixes the problem or whatever. But once you've checked for a solution like that, it keeps track of it as well. And if it's been a significant amount of time where you haven't checked for a solution, you can actually see in the, I think it's in the Action Center, there's a UI in there that says, hey, you've got these, you know, these problems that you had. Did you want us to check again? And it will do this stuff kind of behind the scenes. I'm sorry?
I always mocked that check for solutions thing, but in fact,
it's actually
good. It works.
It does, and it
send
does
you
work.
Solutions eventually.
Yeah, it really does work. In fact, you could be using your computer one day, and a little message will pop up, and it says, "Hey, we found a solution to a problem you had. Did you want to take a look?" And you know, you go through this little wizard where sometimes it applies it automatically. Sometimes you have to click on a download or visit the other company's site or whatever. But then you also have that opportunity to respond to Microsoft about whether this fix, you know, did in fact fix the problem. And it's kind of a nice infinite feedback loop if you think about it. It's a nice little system. So it's really hidden in Windows 7, which is too bad. But the easiest way to find it is just to start menu search and just start typing the word reliability, like REL and I, and that will do it. And we'll say view reliability history, and that's where you can bring up this UI. And the thing that's amazing about it, and I checked on my own computer. In fact, I'm looking at it right now. It literally retains all of the reliability data from the first day that you installed the system. And in my case, I installed Windows 7 on this computer on August 9th, 2009. That's how old this thing is. So it's been funny to watch the reliability go up and down over time, but actually it's pretty good. So
that's one of the features I loved about Vista started that, but I loved it.
Yeah, Vista started it, and if anything, in Vista they were a little more upfront about the tool. I mean, now it's kind of hidden in there. I guess it's the type of tool that most people.
It's for people like you and me.
Well, no, but if things are going wrong, I mean, this is a real nice way. You can go in and look. You can see what reports were sent. The first time a problem comes up, you can say, look, always send these reports. I don't care. Just send them in the background. You can manually check for solutions to all of the problems you've ever had. It will actually check, and you never know. I mean, every once in a while it may come up with something. But the solutions to problems you have had at some point will actually automatically make their way to your computer. You don't have to do anything. In many ways, it just kind of works automatically in the background. Right. But I think it's interesting for people just to go and look and see what their score, you know, how well it's doing on the 1 to 10 score, and you know, what the problem applications are and so forth. It's kind of an interesting little UI.
All right, let's get our Audible picks here, if you don't mind, and then we will
I do mind.
Paul, we've had this conversation, Paul.
No, Leo, I'm not going to do it.
I'm sorry, Paul. I'm not going to open that door. All right, let's get the lower third up, and then Paul will just have to live with it. Audible.com/Windows. I think you've got a pick here. The spectacular crash of the record industry.
Yeah, this is an awesome book. And I'm trying to remember what made me... I actually went and looked for this one. Because I read this in paper form when it first came out. It's called Appetite for Self-Destruction, which is a riff on the Appetite for Destruction album by Guns N' Roses, by Steve Knopper. And it is the story of the music industry. And the interesting part about this to me is how this industry was, it just flew higher and higher and higher through all of the different eras where, you know, they introduced new formats like, you know, LPs first, and then 8-track and cassettes and CDs eventually. And it just kept getting bigger and bigger. convincing people to basically rebuy their old content in new formats worked really, really well for them up until right until the CD, and then everything they've done since the CD has been a disaster, and they really just weren't prepared for the digital music revolution. And it's amazing because early in their life cycle, the music industry was very much on the leading edge of technology, but really they imploded. When this digital music stuff happened, Napster and so forth. And of course, today, from comparatively speaking, record sales are a very small shadow of their former selves, and it's not even close. And I don't know that this statistic is in the book, but I did see a statistic recently where, the top 10 albums of this past year sold something like 1/15 of what the top 10 albums from a decade ago sold. I mean, it's not even close, and it's just amazing what's happened to the record industry. And this is an awesome, awesome book. It's one that I, passed around to a bunch of friends at the time and so forth. And it's a great story, well told.
Here's how you get it free, folks. You just go to audible.com/windows. You'll be signing up for the gold account. That's a book a month. I do 2 books a month easily, but we're going to get you started. Move you in kind of slowly. First one's free, my friends. Go to audible.com/windows. Here'd be a great one. I tell you, the only negative about Audible, frankly, is there's so many great books. It's hard to choose just one, so that's why we like to give you some picks. Listen to that first book, and you will be hooked. It's a great way to spend time when you're on your commute, at the gym, working around the house. I have my Audible plugged in all the time, and now that there's an iPhone and an Android app, I know that I have 435 titles on my Audible library, always available to me anywhere I go. And this would be a great one to add. Audible.com/windows. Thank you so much for your support of Windows Weekly, and we invite you to try audible.com. Now, time for your software pick of the week, Paul. What are you laughing at?
I don't even know. I'm really overtired.
You're punchy.
I am punchy.
You need a quick game of Modern Warfare 2.
I haven't. It's not going to happen. So,
okay.
I haven't played Modern Warfare in a long time.
Really?
I'm just too busy.
You moved right along there.
Yep. Maybe when I get back. Maybe there'll be a map pack in my future. I don't know.
A map pack. There's a map pack in my future.
Yeah, it's not. It's going to be a while. So my software pick this week is the Microsoft Security Essentials 2 beta. This is the new version of Microsoft Security Essentials. The final version will be up by the end of the year. This is the public beta. If you want this, you should move quickly because I guess it's a limited time only beta, and it's possible that sometime soon they could just cut it off. I use and recommend Microsoft Security Essentials. The new version is basically this, the same program, a little better. I mean, it has more integration with like Internet Explorer, Windows Firewall, and so forth like that. But it works and looks largely like its predecessor, which is exactly the reason you want to get it. Because one of the things I love about Microsoft Security Essentials is that it gets out of the way. It doesn't bog down your system. You don't even know it's there. It's just doing the job. It works great. And I've been using this thing, the first version since it was in beta. I've got the beta version of the second version now, running on a couple of PCs. And I think I mentioned a few weeks back, I'm running, the managed version of it, the Intune service version, on my other PCs as well. So this is something I use across the board. It works really, really well. If you are using Windows in a business environment, you might want to also check out the related release of what's now called FrontPoint 4. Hello. I'm so tired, Leo. I'm combining words. It's sort of English.
I like that word.
Yeah, it's not.
What does it mean?
I don't know, because that's not what it is. Forefront Endpoint Protection, or FEP.
FEP.
2010.
It's got FEP.
This is the next version of what was Forefront Client Security, i.e. Microsoft's on-premises managed version of the MSC engine. Same thing.
Right.
It's not free, but the beta is free for now, so you can evaluate the next version as well. So that's available too. I've got the links for the FEP on my website.
FEP. It's available now.
Yeah.
Cool.
What did I call? What did I say?
Front point.
4 points.
4 point.
4 points. It's the new software. Go ahead, try to find it.
Well, take a nap. You don't have to write any more today. I'll give you the rest of the day off.
Oh, Leo. I wish that were true.
Oh, Paul. You know, everybody was saying at the beginning of the show, Paul looks tired. Paul's working too hard. And I said, no. Paul always sounds like this. He's just normally like this.
Yeah.
I guess not.
I might have to go back and look at some old podcasts from the time I finished the Windows 7 book. I'm sure it was
like this.
Very similar, yeah.
But it's like a baby. Nature is an amazing way of protecting you.
Yeah, really?
Yeah, so that after you...
Also an amazing way of making you forget how absolutely crappy it was and why do I keep doing this to myself?
Otherwise, the Earth would have been depopulated by now. Yep. And there'd be no more Windows books. So we really...
Sure.
This is really self-preservation. Yeah. Paul, thank you. Take a nap. Enjoy yourself. Life.
So I checked, by the way, and there is no news yet on the...
No news yet.
On the financial data.
Their analyst call is in an hour and 15 minutes, so I don't think we want to sit around here and do this show for another hour and 15 minutes.
I'll tell you something else about Windows Phone, Leo.
We could easily, though. We could easily.
You're going to be gone for 2 weeks. Yes?
Yes. Next week, I will be on a plane to Detroit. We're going to have a nice event there, by the way. If you feel like you want to party, we're going to be at the Hyatt Dearborn, the Archimedes Lounge on Friday, July 30th, a week from today, 7 to 10 p.m. Come by. If you are going to come by, let us know. There's room there for, I think, 250 people, and I think we have 200 RSVPs. So quickly, email Lisa at twit.tv and say, I'll be there if you're going to be there. And if you're not going to be there or you've changed your mind, let us know, and that way we'll take you off the list and we'll make sure we have enough room for everybody. That's the Hyatt Dearborn. I'll put this on the live front page on twit.tv. Hyatt Dearborn Archimedes Lounge downstairs, 7 to 10 p.m., Friday, July 30th. Please come by and say hi. And I am so excited, been talking to Scott Motti over at Ford, and we have an amazing live video stream we're going to do on Friday. We're going to be in the Rouge plant. We're going to get to the plant floor, but then we're going to go about 10 minutes away, and we'll take you there live. You'll get to drive with us. We're going to go to a place where the executives come to see the new car for the first time in the ginormous simulation. We're going to see some stuff that is just NASA came to see Ford to see what they were doing. I'm not kidding. This is we've never before seen anybody's ever documented this. We're going to go deep inside the Ford Design Center. So I'm very, very, very excited about that. And then the next day it's Maker Faire. So we're going to go from what Big Iron does to what individuals do with MakerBots and things like that. So really cool 2 days on. And so yes, I won't be here, but Tom Merritt will be doing the show. Okay. And then the following weekend, I'm flying Abby and the family to college. So 2 weeks off, but have fun in Germany.
Okay. Well, I'll be talking to you from Germany.
Yeah. And I guess I'll see you on the 12th.
Okay.
August 12th. Thanks, Paul. Have a great week. Have a great trip to Germany. And we'll see you next time on Windows Weekly.